Skibbity doo.
I'm leaving that in. All right. Welcome everyone to this BTB short, The State of Star Wars, where we got five today, self-professed Star Wars nerds talk about Star Wars. My name is Matt Smith. I am joined by Brian Larson,
Hello.
Aaron Lashbrook,
Hello there.
Brad Riverdal,
Hello.
and the T that's in BTB, Tim Larson.
It's all about lifting rocks.
Before we get started, we are part of the SPDM Crew Podcast Network. You can check out our main cast, the BTB Movie Club, along with a lot of other great podcasts like Comics Corner, 15 Years Later, Tolkien on Tap, and all sorts of stuff. And you can get those wherever you listen and download your podcasts. And we have to do a spoiler warning because that's the world we live in. We will be talking about Star Wars past, present, future. We'll talk about characters, plots, blah, blah, blah. So please note that this is your warning. We are talking about Star Wars. Spoilers ahead. How's everybody doing?
Pretty good. Feeling good. You
Excellent.
just you just said that we could be given a spoiler for future stuff. Now, how could we do that?
Well, if we say something really smart and get it right, we would be
Oh, okay.
accused of spoiling it.
Okay. Sorry, that
You're
doesn't
safe.
answer your question. I'm great.
Good.
Or nowadays, we could say something really stupid and get it right.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. We're
Hey.
five smart guys.
Sure.
Yeah. I was just
Hey.
going more with the, on Star Wars a little bit. That seems to be on brand lately.
Yeah.
hmm
All
I
right.
make
Well,
a
this,
Star Wars prediction that the Rey movie will not happen for a really long time, if ever. There's my prediction.
oh,
Hmm.
wow. Wow.
Hot take.
I feel like last time you said it was going to happen. So
It's
you're
gonna
changing
happen,
it.
but it's just gonna be a really long time.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So this is it. This is our last planned episode here. We're trying to wrap this up and talking about future things. We got a couple things to talk about before that. I'd like to mention because I'm leading the mic here is I did just get back from Disney World, so I got to see Star Wars Land, aka Galaxy's Edge. I've texted you guys a bunch of stuff, and so I got my geek moment of the year and got interrogated by Kylo Ren in person, and probably sounded like an idiot because I got nervous and didn't know what to say. So, like a child. So that was fun. But other than that, it was a good trip. Had a lot of fun in Galaxy's Edge. I will go back at some point and finish all those app things and bounty hunter things that you get to do there. I never have enough time because, kids and wives and stuff. So anyway, it was a good time. So if you've never been to Galaxy's Edge, I highly recommend it.
A couple
You,
of questions about this.
I,
One, were your kids and wife with you while you were interrogated by Kylo Ren?
they were not.
They
So
were not.
my wife is a wonderful, wonderful woman. And she knew I wanted to kind of just, walk around and see some of the stuff in Galaxy's Edge. And there's a little app they have that you can kind of play around with stuff. And so I was kind of doing that. And she said, well, I'll take the kids over to Toy Story Land, which is right next to Star Wars Land at Disney World. And so she said, hang out for a little bit, do what you're gonna do, and then just meet us over there. We'll go. So they were nowhere near me, and my in-laws came with us, and they weren't near us either. So it was just me. And I think I got picked out because I was doing some sort of scanner thing with the app with this game, trying to scan, and I was not paying attention, and he kind of snuck up on me. And other people were around. They got their phones out and started recording. Um, anyway, overall, I had a good time at Disney World.
I
Um,
Good.
I also have legitimate questions. I don't know if Tim's done. Seemed like you
Yep.
had maybe a few in the holster. Um, can you go to Disney and just go to the Star Wars part? Like, is that
yeah, so it's in Hollywood Studios.
okay?
So you can just get a ticket to Hollywood Studios and just go there for the day. And so Hollywood Studios has Toy Story Land, Star Wars Land, which is called Galaxy's Edge. It has the Muppet stuff, if you're into that kind of stuff, although they're replacing that. They have all the like Pixar stuffs there, like if you're into the Pixar movies. They have the Indiana Jones. Remember that? The stunt spectacular. You guys ever see that where they
Hmm.
keep the boulder rolls over them and the fire? Anyway, they have that and they have some other stuff. So yeah, you can just go to Hollywood Studios for the day and see all that stuff. Um, it's where Tower of Terror is as well. I'm
Yeah.
sure you've heard of that one. The Aerosmith roller coaster, which is going to be gone soon, is there. So that's like a institution there. But yeah, sorry, that was a really long answer to your
Isn't
question, but
No, that's
aren't
all
they
right.
building like a Marvel world there too? Because
I don't know because Universal has a bunch of Marvel stuff. Right now, the only thing they have in the chamber is Monsters Inc. So and that's at I can't remember. That might be at Hollywood too. I can't remember.
Yeah. There's a Guardian. Forget if there's a Guardians of the
it's
Galaxy
Guardians
thing there
Yeah,
Galaxy
too.
ride,
that's
yeah.
And then
Epcot. Yeah. So
yeah,
at
out
Epcot
in
they have Guardians. They have some of the Marvel stuff there, but I have not heard anything about. They are building a villains land at
Mhm.
Magic Kingdom. So,
For some reason, I think they're not putting it out there too much, but it's
mhm,
like kind of a known secret that they're building a Marvel area. They just can't say it until
right.
the Universal
It
runs out.
it would make sense. I mean,
Hmm.
why wouldn't you? It's basically printing money at that point, I think. So,
Did you
yeah.
go to
So
Did you go to Oga's Cantina in
we didn't
Galaxy's Edge?
we did not go to the cantina. I did
No.
not have time to go to the cantina. So, Brian, you've been there?
I've been there, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't do that. I didn't build a lightsaber. So
I did not.
um be so on vacation my in-laws were with me, including my sister-in-law, so there was eight of us. So it was kind of tough to
Yeah.
make everybody happy and get it where we wanted to go. It was also 90 degrees and 95% humidity, which I don't know if you can see me very well through the screen. That doesn't bode well for me at all. So it was tough getting around. Once 1 o'clock rolled around, we were pretty much done and we had to go home and take a nap. And then we went out later at night too. But anyway, it was a good time.
Did you
Yes.
see the drone show, the Star Wars
I
drone
did
show?
not see the Star Wars drone show.
I did
So
not make it there the last time I was there and missed it, but I really something you got to see.
yeah. I didn't even hear anything about it, so I don't know if it was even an option for me. I'm sure it was, but
Yeah, because there are areas that you can get to in Disney that you don't have to have a ticket.
ah,
And there's shops, there's a beach area.
yeah. Yeah,
In Epcot
we also didn't go to Disney Springs. We didn't do that. So that's like the
yeah,
shopping
from
restaurant area.
Disney Springs, you can see the
Gotcha.
um, drone show. But they used to do fireworks all the time, and I'm not sure if they stopped doing fireworks for like eco-friendly. I don't know,
Nope, they do
but I know
fireworks
they do. They
every
do
night.
still do the
Yeah,
fireworks now.
every night, sometimes twice a night. So we
Yeah,
found that out. So we had late night tickets. So they do this late night thing at some of the parks where you can stay till like 1 a.m. It's a special ticket, you got to buy it. But and we didn't know this, but they did a second fireworks show at Magic Kingdom that was different from the first one. It was really cool. And the fireworks shows now involve the castle a lot. They do like a video show
right.
on the castle. It's really neat. So we got two in one night that night.
Did they have the Tinkerbell? I think it was Tinkerbell on the zip line
Yep.
come off the
Yep. For both of them.
because
Yeah.
because I know like somebody got hurt not too
Oh,
long
I'm
ago
sure.
and
I
they
can't
stopped doing it for a
imagine that
while.
they could do that every night, once or twice a night, and not something bad happen. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I know it's Disney, but it's impressive. It's impressive. So, yeah.
If you go again, it's Oga's Cantina. It's sometimes depending on how busy it is, they'll try to rush you out of there because it's like there's always you have to like reserve it way in advance. But there's always people that just don't show up. It's
Mm,
just like a little tip. So if anybody goes there and you're like, oh, they're like, oh, I didn't make a reservation, they'll kind of turn you away. You just say, hey, can I put my name on a standby list? Because they give you like a little beeper, like you're at a freaking Outback or something. Like, and then when it goes off, or they send you a text or whatever,
yeah.
um, they'll often just say, oh yeah, somebody didn't show up, or their in-laws wanted them to go somewhere else, so they
Yeah.
left. But it's cool. They have if you enjoy an adult beverage, they have some unique IPAs and like beer that's like they stole the guy that was like the head brewer from Cigar City, which is
Oh,
in
yeah.
Tampa. And
Hmm.
like he makes their in-house like beer for them. There's like the Bad Motivator IPA. There's
Yeah.
like there's a bunch of like cleverly named Star Wars beers there. It's pretty cool.
What's the
Yeah.
tone like in this cantina? Is it chill or are there animatronics doing music like Chuck E. Cheese?
So the bar literally looks like the cantina. I mean,
That's
it's
great.
like all the stuff is there behind all the light fixtures look like it did in the movie. All the architecture is the same. They have music playing and they have one animatronic thing in there and it's pretty cool. So if you've ever went
Okay.
on Star Tours back in the day,
Mhm.
they had the captain of the ship from Star Tours was named Rex, and he's no longer in Star Tours. They removed him. They put him in Oga's Cantina, and he's off in the corner, and he's like the in-house DJ, and like he talks
Okay.
about how he had his memory wiped and all this stuff. It's like I don't think I've ever been here before. Just like it's cool. But yeah, it's very like weird, kind of like Star Wars inspired world music, like electronic tinged.
Oh, I
So
just thought it was the Cantina theme on repeat.
no, God, can you imagine
That's what I'm
working there?
saying. If it was like that, I wouldn't want to go in there.
No.
The staff would just be nuts.
Yes.
They would revolt.
You'd lose your mind.
Yeah.
No, it's cool. It's definitely worth it.
Although I will say Disney's really good. They rotate people in and out of spots like constantly.
Mhm.
If you ever stand in line for a ride, they might rotate those people like 2, 3 times while you're waiting in
Yeah.
line. So they're really so.
Occasionally, like stormtroopers will walk through and
Oh,
just kind of
cool.
like peek into there's like little booths like tucked away in the corner, just like in the movie. So they'll walk through and kind of like eyeball you and
Hmm.
say a couple things and walk by. It keeps it in
Okay.
universe. It's cool.
I like that.
Yeah, definitely worth a trip. I know Florida, Disney, there's expense and travel for everybody, but it's worth a trip if you ever, if you're doing something else down there and you just stop in, like Aaron said, just pop in for the day. Just go to Hollywood or whatever. You can drive, you can park in the parking lot. Like, I mean, it's not like you have to be on campus to go there. So pretty cool.
All right.
All right. So that was my adventure in Disney World. So before we get to the main topic here, we actually have Brad and Aaron on at the same time, which we kind of joked last week that it wouldn't happen because they're actually the same person.
Right.
So I'm glad they're both here. And
So many
so
differences.
and so they have something unique in common, and that is and maybe I should let you guys explain it because I'm gonna screw it up here. So, you guys are both or were at one point members of a Stormtrooper group. Can you clean that up for me? I'll let Aaron go first because he looks like he's about to say something.
No, I was going to let Brad because he's a current member.
I got you. Okay.
The 501st, costuming group. It started off as Stormtroopers, but then grew quickly into, other members of, I guess, Luke's Rogues Gallery, if you want to blend comic book terminology together.
Okay.
But go ahead, Brad.
Oh, yeah, I mean it is just that. It's a costuming group. Been around since the late 90s and started out pretty small. I think when you were in it when it was fairly young, it seems like.
Yeah, I
Um,
just heard about it, and the internet was new, and finding things out about it was kind of tough.
yeah,
But you had
And
heard
and this
things.
was Midwest wide, is because I know Aaron's in Michigan, if you don't mind me saying, and Brad, you're in Illinois, I assume.
yeah.
So this is just a Midwest thing.
It's I don't know where the first one was. I don't know where like the founder lived, to be honest with you, but it was started out in the United States. I know that
In
because
the
the
very
founder.
early 2000s, it was already worldwide. I
Yeah,
mean,
Okay.
Mm.
I
so
mean
it spread quickly.
there's thousands and thousands. Like I I remember there used to be a podcast. I haven't listened to it in probably 10 years, but at that time they would always say at the beginning of the 501st podcast, it was like they would give the current number, and back then it was like 6,000, 7,000 people or something around it. So I'm sure it's people come and go as well, but yeah, it's stormtroopers, TIE pilots or TIE fighter pilots, anything you can imagine. I mean, there's guys that do the Emperor, there's guys that do obviously like Vader and Boba Fett, and but they do a lot of charity events, a lot of Comic Cons, non-charity stuff, but they're big with Make-A-Wish Foundation. So people will request an appearance, and like people will sign up and they'll go, and I'm
Well,
not super active anymore, but I go to like one or two things a year.
even to tie it to Matt's Disney story, I think how I first heard of it or whatever was either the first or maybe the second celebration. Um, and I could be off on the timing on that. Um, when they did a huge parade, there was kind of rumors it was like, Disney or Lucas or both got together and they hired, didn't hire because, the guys would do it for free. They'd pay to be there.
Mhm.
Um, you know, in the first parade, it was all 501st members because
Yep.
there wasn't stormtrooper equipment, uniforms and stuff to wear. And this group had hundreds of people, at the ready to show up. And yes, I would love to do this.
And they still, what's crazy is, so this has got to be, gosh, when did the episodes of Mandalorian with, was it Bill Burr, the comedian that was in a handful of
Yeah.
episodes?
Yeah.
So
Yes.
there's an episode in, I think it's season two, if I remember correctly. But like they're basically trying to like drive this like tank into an Imperial facility, and it's like there's like pirates trying to pick them off, and like it's basically like the scene from Solo. It was kind of lame. They just redid it on Mandalorian. But there's a scene where there's a bunch of Imperial gunners like stationed at this like, and that's the character that I do in the 501st. And I got an email. Like they sent an email to everybody who is in the 501st with an Imperial gunner costume, and I was like, hey, if you're in the Southern California area, they didn't want to go through the cost of like building a bunch of Imperial gunner costumes, so they asked the 501st, "You want to sign up and then
That's
come be
That's
in
cool.
great.
an episode of The Mandalorian?" So it was
That's awesome.
like that's pretty cool. And there's not a ton of people that do the gunner. It's like I don't know, maybe a couple hundred. So they still do stuff like that. I mean, they still reach out to them. They still like they'll do events sometimes, and they'll a lot of it's in California, but they'll if they need there's a commercial a couple years ago where they had like Volkswagen hired people in the 501st to be in a car commercial. So
Hmm. That's cool.
Well, I have a question. You said that some people do like Darth Vader and Boba Fett. I'm gonna guess there's not just one dude that does Darth Vader. Like, does that get competitive? Like, they're like, no, Jim, you got to be Darth Vader last time. Just put the stormtrooper cut. Like, does that is that a thing, or do they have like an application process? Do you even know?
usually for the events, it's funny. Like I bet you the events are the same way it was, Aaron, when you did it years ago. They still go on like an old school message board, like to plan events. Like nobody uses message boards on the internet anymore. The 501st, like all the communication is on like Facebook and Instagram and stuff. But when you sign up for an event, it'll be like, hey, so and so has asked us to be at this event. Here's what they're looking for. They're looking for, stormtroopers, whatever. And usually you're not gonna have two Vaders show up, or it would confuse kids, I
Right.
think.
Exactly.
So yeah, usually one person will do, and it's a lot of people are like that do Vader. They're like, I don't think they like it because it's such a process, and you have to have like a handler with you because like there's like three different robes, and you're tripping over yourself, and you can't
Hmm.
see. It's like it's kind of a pain. I mean, it looks cool when you're in it, but God forbid you do an event in the summer and it's
Yeah.
hot out. I mean, you're pretty rough.
Hmm.
But you'll see some of the pictures of like San Diego Comic Con, and there'll be a couple Vaders. There'll be, almost 1,000 troopers, but 3 or 4 Boba Fett's, and they'll spread them out in the picture. But they're the ones that stand out. Now, I think the well reception of the Mandalorian, and it was already starting. You started seeing customizable or customized Mandalorian, other than Boba Fett, just created, a person whatever they wanted. It wasn't
Yeah.
in world at all,
And
other
that's
than it was a
cool,
Mandalorian costume.
especially at
Um,
like a Comic-Con. That's really cool.
right. So now, I think it's even more spread out. You might not get a Boba Fett, you might get 7 Mandalorians.
Hmm.
But so that was the thing, you know, and then different things where, you know, everybody's always looking to, you know, set out on their own. Black, you know, ABS, because that's what it's molded in. People started using black ABS, and, you know, either the Shadow Troopers or a version of that came from that, or it was, you know, right after that that they showed up. There was, you know, people doing it in red ABS, you know, a long time ago. There's actually a famous Adidas commercial that's got a red stormtrooper with Adidas stripes on, and he's carrying a
Hmm.
big boom box. So, you know, and that was way before there were Sith troopers and stuff like that. So,
Hmm.
Yeah, back in the day, you had to make everything. Like you had to
right.
know somebody who had like a vacuum form machine, or like
Hmm.
you had to buy a kit and like cut it and stuff. Now, I'm not very active in it anymore. Like I said, I am still a member. I did 2 events in the last year, which is more than I did in the year prior. But yeah, you can buy the stuff now. You can go to like Lucasfilm and Disney sell, like they've partnered with companies. You can go buy a full Stormtrooper costume. I mean, it's expensive, but and some people like the old school guard is like, oh, I had to, back in my day, I had to sit in my garage and like paint it and do all this stuff. But yeah, it's kind of opened up the floodgates. So I think a lot more people have joined since
Do
that.
you do you know the website for this, Brad? I feel like we should put the website as part of this podcast for anybody listening who would like to obtain a Star Wars costume.
Not offhand, I don't, but
Okay, we'll put it in the
Well,
liner
I
notes.
mean, a couple of years ago, even Ruby's, which was not seen as like a great costuming source previously, you know, and they did tiers, but their top tier Vader, other than the helmet, you know, was seen as being pretty good, and
Mhm.
their, you know, Stormtrooper, other than the helmet, was passable. You know, I don't know if it was 501st approvable, but it would, you know, it would look pretty good. You know, they were like a grand, you know, but it was like a regular costuming, a Halloween company making
Yep.
them.
Yeah, they did
So,
like like the pro level, like the higher end ones.
yeah,
You pay
Ultra
for it.
Supreme or, you
Yeah,
know,
just look up 501ST, 501st Legion.com. I feel
Hmm.
like this is the main website. Just there's all kinds of stuff like how do I get approved? How do I join? Like you can find all kinds of stuff on there.
Cool. I didn't know if you
well,
guys had anything else.
No,
I was just seeing where
That's
Matt was going with
stretching
that's
tents.
really cool,
that's
right?
all I
Really
have to
cool.
say about that.
So,
Well,
Aaron, like locally, we have a, minor league hockey team, and they'll do a Star Wars night. Is that a group of the 501st that shows up for that?
yes. Yep. I want to say the one I went to, I've got pictures of my kids. There was a Darth Vader, a stormtrooper, and there was a really decent for God, my kids were young. So 11 years ago, there was a really decent Chewbacca.
Yeah,
And that's hard to pull off.
sure.
So they've only gotten better with techniques and pricing and, you know, people talking about what worked for them and what doesn't, as far as, you know, putting it together. But
On the message
I
boards.
think at that game they were actually introduced, or, you know, it was like they thanked, you know, the members of the
Yeah.
501st for being there. So
Have
Yeah,
you
I've done
ever seen them somewhere and like talked and been like, "Hey, your
no,
blaster isn't correct for Boba Fett"?
no, no, because you know, that's what didn't get me in trouble, but that's what got a crooked hair up my. And it's hard because, like what Brad was saying, you know, about getting approved, and to the point where Disney or Lucas calls them to be in a parade in front of hundreds of thousands of people. And I don't know how many people are at
Mhm.
Disney, you know, every night or whatever, or who I've never been to Celebration either, or to be in a friggin' movie, you know, they've got standards and it's tough, you know, and when you're told that, you know, so I got in, I had a trooper set of armor that I got in a trade, so it was already put together. I had to make some modifications, but I didn't have to like cut the rough edges off it and rivet it together myself. It was 99.9% done. Um, I had traded you know, a ton, probably 4 totes full of Power of the Force action figures that I'd collected, and put my blood, sweat, and tears into finding, Luke with the extra long lightsaber and, every variant color one. Um, but good on me because they're virtually worthless now, other than in my memories. But I
Yep.
traded about 4 totes full of those action figures. There was a couple stuffed animals, a Wampa, and I think a Tauntaun, um, big scale one. But anyway, to a guy. Um, and I got 2 full sets of armor for it. Um, one pristine white, and the other was kind of raggedy, so he made it into a sand trooper, which I totally understood. But yeah, that was totally worth it. Um, but that was, the stories. I saw him at a comic book trade show in Gibraltar's Trade Center, and he had the suit. I don't know if he had it standing up or I got talking to him about what he'd want for it, what he'd take for it, and the amount of money was too much. And I was like, I got a huge collection of Star Wars stuff. So we set up and he came and looked at it. Um, but the whole mystique of, well, I got a buddy who got this that are, they're made from molds from, the Shepperton Studios in England, and I
Yep.
got these 2 sets sent over. And there was some big talk about, I'm gonna try, to become like the pipeline for
Yep.
stormtrooper suits coming over from England and distributing them in, the United States and stuff like that, which never materialized. He was living in his parents' attic, so um,
Hey, that's not
I don't
reinforce that
judge. I don't
stereotype.
judge, but that never happened. So, but yeah, so it was a really good set. I don't know there's all differences, and if you can go down a rabbit hole on stormtrooper helmets and who made what when and where and what this when the sides are a little bigger than normal. Um,
Oh, dude,
but
it's
I
like
won't
its
get in the
own
weeds about
language, isn't it?
yeah, I won't
It's like
get in the weeds about that.
ridiculous.
Well,
Yeah,
like
it's so
even
ridiculous.
Shepperton is like the gold standard to where even they've had fights. Members of the family have claimed that they have the original molds, and there's I think 2 people claiming that they're making original Sheppertons right now.
Hmm.
Um, 2 different groups. Um, but so I had a really good suit. Took some pictures. They were approved. Got in the 501st. Saw they had other groups, and I, besides a trooper, have always loved the Imperial Guards, the Red Guards. So I had got a Don Post helmet, which Don Post back in the 90s, if you got the collector's edition, not the ones that were in Kmart, um, uh, they were pretty good. So I had but they were all like one piece of rubbery vinyl, rubbery plastic. I had a Stormtrooper and I had gotten a Royal Guard, and I was like, you know what? I think I can, because there were people who double dipped or even triple dipped. They had different costumes, and they would, have different um, what call signs for the different groups they were in.
Yep.
You know, and I had thrown together. I was more about the helmet, and I got it painted the right colors, and I put the right visor in it, and then I kind of threw together the rest of it, and they didn't like it, and I didn't, it hurt my ego a little bit, and so I got in a little computer arguing. I was a keyboard hero, a little back and forth, and thinking back on it, which I haven't thought about it in a decade at least. Um, they were absolutely willing to work with me, but my ego was so they were like, just do a little better and put some more time and effort into it, and it'll be good. And I shot him, double bird and delete me off your site, remove any reference to me, blah blah blah.
That's
I
awesome.
may I may have overreacted.
Yeah, I remember when they did the roles, George Lu I can't remember what year it was, but George Lucas was the Grand Marshal for the Rose Bowl parade because he's,
Mhm.
California. Um, this is years ago, but like they had it was I think it was the largest 501st gathering at that time. This is like before they did celebration, like the big celebrations. But I remember like there was so much like infighting and competition to try and like, because I mean, this is like huge deal, you know. It's like you get to meet George Lucas, you get to like he's like the first person at the front of the parade, and then there's like Vader, and then they want this exact number of troopers behind them. They want, you know, six TIE fighter pilots on each side, and then they just a crap ton of stormtroopers. So people were like, you had to send in your photos, you had to write a little thing, and like Lucas, this is before Disney owned Lucasfilm, but Lucasfilm was like, yep, not good enough. Like, no, oh, you look good. You're too short.
Yeah.
And then there was all this stuff. It was
Wow.
like, what do you, or you're too heavy, stuff
Yeah, I
like
could.
that. And people were like, oh, and then, you know, people are like throwing a fit because it's like, oh, you're discriminating me. And it's like, no, it's just like being cast in something like if you don't look the part,
Yeah.
sorry, we're not doing
Yeah.
it. But
Ask
the
female actresses how they feel about that comment right
yeah,
there.
yeah, but it does get to be that's honestly that's why I'm not as active anymore because I feel like if you just dip your toe in it every once in a while and do an event and enjoy it for what it is, kids kids like, smile ear to ear. I mean, I've done some events with children's hospitals through Make-A-Wish stuff where there was a kid that had a terminal brain tumor and like passed away like 2 months after we did the event and like the kid like his life he told his parents, well, what do you want to do? And he's like, I want to fight Darth Maul. And this guy like went 1,000% legit, like made this kid like Jedi robes, got him his own lightsaber. This guy like shaved his head, looked exactly like Darth Maul, and like they brought him out and like the kid stood up and the parents were like, this is the first time he's been this active in like six
Mm.
months like you don't know what this means to us. It was, dude,
Mm.
everybody was like, good thing we all had helmets on.
Yeah, exactly.
Everybody
Yeah.
was like tearing up, you know. But like stuff like that is just so cool.
Wouldn't
You
it
do
have been
something
great
like
though if
that.
Darth Maul just like blasts him across the face?
Like splits him in half. You're like that's not
Brian,
supposed to
maybe you
happen.
misunderstood the theme of the story.
No, but stuff like that is really cool. But if you do it, I find it if you do it too much and you get too into it, it's just like anything else. It's like if you're way too into like your job or whatever, the politics ultimately come into play, and then people, oh, you know, there's like infighting and stuff like that. It's just too much. And yeah, you do get those people like Aaron was saying, it's like, oh, you know, I don't think I do your blaster a little differently. That's not quite up to spec. It's like, screw you, man. It's like I worked on this thing for, you know, a month or whatever.
My blaster
So,
shoots the same fake laser as your blaster. Oh,
and
shut up.
neither of us hit anything.
And we all miss. Yeah, I was just going to say it. Yeah.
Oh, it's fun though. It's fun. It's what you make of it, but it is definitely fun, and it's still around if anyone's interested.
That's cool.
That is great stuff.
Yeah, and there's a website you said, right?
Yeah, just look up 501st Legion, and there's other groups too. I mean, there's like the Droid Builders, which is like you get all these like guys that are into engineering, and they'll build like life size like astromech droids on remote controls, and those are really cool. There's Rebel Legions, like all the good guys. There's anything you can imagine. There's the Mandalorian Mercs, which is like they do all these mashups. Like I went to a Cubs game last year. It was like Star Wars Day, and like there was this guy in like full like Cubs Mandalorian armor. It was like super cool.
That's cool.
He was fighting with a White Sox guy. It was funny. The White Sox Mandalorian.
Yeah,
Fun
I just
stuff.
looked it up. There's a whole bunch of 501st.com/, like
Yep.
the mission and the Vader group. And I just clicked on one of them and it told me I'm too fat. So I'm already out.
Well,
It did a
Sorry.
body scan and I'm already out.
You might have been in Southeast Asia. Go to the Midwest. You'll fit in.
yeah.
Yeah, trust me. There's no
I'm
judging.
from Wisconsin. I'll be fine.
Wow.
I apologize to all the
Wow.
listeners from Wisconsin who were
You
upset
don't have
about
to
that
do that. It's
comment.
okay.
The
I'm in
opinions
Nebraska.
of Tim Larson do not reflect.
There's like there's the cheese curd trooper, you know.
All right. Well, that's really cool. I appreciate you guys sharing that. Seems like a neat organization. And if you guys out there listening are interested, just Google it. Tim found it in like 10 seconds, so it can't be that hard to find. Go ahead and I'm sorry. Did that come out? Came out
I
harsher
think it
than
came
I
out
meant.
exactly how you meant it. That's fine.
Um,
Fine. I see what kind of podcast this is going to be.
So, All right. So, finishing up the series here, I just want to talk a little bit about and we've touched on this a little bit is what we'd like to see from Star Wars in the near future. We kind of have talked about this progressively through the series about movies and TV, but just maybe again a quick whip around here of what's something you'd like to see from our beloved Star Wars in the near future. Brian, I'll start. I'll go around and make it easier on you guys. Brian, I'll go with you. Oh, maybe I don't have to. I can
No,
start with
no, that's
somebody
fine.
else.
I
Sorry.
was just trying to, you know, I guess what I would like to see is people to relax,
Yeah.
the fans.
Yeah.
I guess that would be the best thing. It's like, I enjoyed The Acolyte. I thought it was good. The actress comes out and there was a bad review and it turned into a race and this and that. And it's like, stop, and then,
Yeah.
in her defense too, there were people who were like, there shouldn't be an African American, blah, blah, blah. It's like, stop, people,
Yeah.
please. Let's just, enjoy fantasy future in a far, far away. It's like, how do you
Yeah.
get mad
Right. Yeah. It's
about
not
something that's
real.
completely made up?
Yeah, it's
You
not
know,
real. Yeah.
not
I
to go to a different genre, but like the Harry Potter people who, you used the wrong inflection when you said Imperiosa. It's like, really stop. Come on,
it's
guys.
it's all
So,
fake.
I first thing I would say is just fans settle down.
Yeah.
Um, I do enjoy a lot of the Disney shows that are the Disney Plus stuff. I think they, for a while there, though, were pumping out a little bit too much.
Hmm.
So take a minute, get good writing, actors, and put out good shows. You could keep making the shows that are some obscure people if you want, um, and stop canceling the stuff that's good.
Yeah.
Bad Batch was
Right.
phenomenal.
Yeah.
Do more of that. So
Yeah. Good.
the
Yeah. No,
stuff that's working, keep doing, and find, like I said, I tap into the other markets that you're already using. You got writers that are doing comic books, you have writers that are doing novels, you have writers, get them to try TV shows, partner with somebody who's already doing it, and just utilize people that are already involved and put out really good stuff instead of putting out money grab. I
yeah.
guess would be
Mhm.
what I
Just
would like to see continue.
slow down, right?
Yeah. There's
Quality over quantity.
Yeah. Go ahead, Brad. And keep going. What are you looking for in the near future?
I think I've enjoyed a lot most of the TV streaming series. Not everything equally, but I've enjoyed most of it. Star Wars belongs in the movie theater. They need to get back. That's what I'm looking forward to. I hope Andor season two is awesome. All that stuff, but like, there's nothing like seeing a Star Wars movie in the theater. And I know they're doing the Mandalorian and Grogu thing. Hopefully that goes over well and they can bounce off that. But like, it's always an event, Like
Hmm.
that's where it's meant to be. So that's what I hope for Star Wars in the near future is that they reestablish their theatrical presence and they don't get scared off from doing that. And I know there's a lot of stuff with, the studio shutdown and the pandemic and all that stuff kind of threw things into a bit of a tizzy for a while, but I think they're back. They can do this the right way, and like you said, utilize some of those good writers that are already working for them, and like let's get a quality Star Wars movie back on the big screen.
Yeah.
That's my hope.
Good stuff. Tim, what do you think?
I like both of those comments. And some of it that Brian's talking about, and maybe what Brad is talking about is the business side of things. You know, if you have a streaming service, you want people coming back and paying continuously for your service. So you have to put stuff out to give them a reason to watch. So I think that's part of the reason why they put so much stuff out is to keep people interested and paying because you don't really get advertising dollars out of it. You know what I mean? However, you can make a lot of money by making a movie if you do it right. And I think when Disney bought Star Wars, they went, okay, we don't have anybody holding back on the reins. Let's go. I'm hitting the button. And I do remember hearing we're going to put out a movie a year for however many years that was. And a lot of them were pretty good. And then Solo was,
Shut your
it
mouth.
just derailed everything for them. You
See,
know,
I really like Solo.
I don't dislike this movie, but they had so many problems with it. They had problems with the writers, they had problems with the directors. And it's like they wanted to keep their timeline. I want to have all these movies out there that they rushed it. And I'm with you, Aaron. I like the movie, but I think there was so much negative juju around that they got gun shy, like Brad is saying. Like, get back in the theater. Don't stop what you were doing. I would love to see stories about. I know I said this earlier in the podcast series, but I like what they started with the Acolyte, and I would like to hear stories about the Sith growing to power. I would like to see early Yoda stuff, and I know some of this is put into books and comic books, and some of those stories are out there. I would just love to see the big moments in the theater. And I think, as you guys are saying, they could do it right. And the littler moments, like Luke Skywalker starts to become a Jedi Master and training people. All we know is that that happened, and then Kylo Ren brought the house down. You could certainly make a series out of that. You
Yeah.
know, there are a lot of little moments that are left from the movies where you could make series, but there are big moments that you could make movies. And I would like to see both of those things happen with a good, mixture of taste, like, hey, I think this one could be a series and this one could be a movie. That would be fantastic.
Yeah. Aaron, what do you think?
I think exactly what Brad thinks because we're the same person.
Braren.
I also gave the double birds to the 501st at one point. So
Yeah. They've just been changing their voices. It's been beautiful.
Oh,
So,
yeah,
okay, question. We brought the Ray movie up. We're on the futures, right? We brought the
yeah,
Ray movie
yeah.
up. Where do we think we're going with this? Because the last what was the name of the last movie?
Rise of
Rise of
Skywalker.
Skywalker.
Thank you. The Rise of Skywalker. They were like, Skywalker saga is over. That's the end of it. We're not, and when now we're gonna have a Ray movie. So, okay, what are we gonna do with it? And where are we gonna go? I'm
And also
curious as to where
she
that's
was
gonna
she
go.
was also like, oh, and by the way, I'm gonna take the last name Skywalker. So is it really over?
Right.
You know, they're just
Right.
hedging their bets.
Yeah.
Aaron, you had a little cough
I
there
had to finish
before.
coughing. Yeah.
Anything you
So,
want to add to that?
not to that, but to the conversation. Yeah. Um, but thanks for filling in, Tim. You
Sure.
got them.
I got you, buddy.
Um, got for the movies. I totally agree. They should be the big moments. Um, they're it would be totally hated. People would scream and shout about it, but people have screamed and shouted about Netflix raising their prices and cutting out, sharing and, Hulu a little bit with the extra tier where you don't get commercials anymore for a little bit more money. Um, I think, and maybe other people, smarter people have thought of it and they don't like the idea. But instead of, I also like the series, but instead of doing a a streaming series that's 8 episodes that could have been 4 or even 3, and they probably can't justify the cost of making 3. Um, Save the streaming for before a movie's going to be released every other year, every 3 years, and give us something that enhances the movie, but
Mhm.
you have to have the streaming service to see it and
Mhm.
maybe even something right after, wait 2 months. And not that the movie wouldn't be a standalone on its own, but you would just get 1, 2 half-hour episodes just before the movie comes out. And then maybe another half hour or two after the movie comes out. And, like I said, people would lose their friggin' minds. But they would also subscribe to Disney to see those
Yeah.
4
Yeah.
tidbits.
I
Um,
like that.
it
It's a
would
great
suck, but
idea.
it would give it some merit, and it would definitely have direction. It wouldn't meander for 4 episodes of a bit of story, before you get into the last two episodes where, you believe that you actually like the whole thing when you only like the last three episodes. So I don't know why they don't do something like that. Like I said, people would scream and shout about it, but I think it would get people to subscribe
Well, they
because,
did that with The Force Awakens, like, but they did a comic book.
right.
Like they were like, oh, it's the prelude to or the lead up to Force Awakens, your idea is way better than that though, because then, like you said, that's you could have made Rise of Skywalker, which I actually love. A lot of people hate that movie. You could have made that movie way better by explaining all the stuff that they tried to cram into the crawl, and then like
Mm.
you know, the novel and explaining it after the fact. Give the whole backstory, like you said, in like a good 3 to 4 episodes of a streaming show. That would have been awesome.
Yeah.
And then you can put it out on physical media, and you can like have like the giant cut, or it includes
Yeah. The
that or
super cut,
something. Yeah.
Yeah.
the Disney cut instead of the director's cut. Um, yeah. And then the crawl could just say, you should have Disney Plus. Here we go.
Little
Um,
QR code during the crawl to order Disney Plus.
Yeah.
that's not a bad idea. I can see it happening. Um, when the first thing I wrote down when Matt asked the question was, I like the filling the cracks with the streaming episodes. Like I said, most of them, it seems like they like the number, 8. I don't know if they have to be 8, and I don't know what that does to cost and stuff like that. If you were to do um, something like, the Bounty Hunters Guild and just go off, maybe remind the viewers of the Mandalorian and, a bounty coming down, but then totally go off to throw in, a Dengar, somebody once in a while, but have it all new characters, have it people we don't know about. And if they wear helmets, that's going to sell a lot of merch because one thing that Disney does well, as someone my age, um, like the Black Series helmets, they sell like crazy. People buy them. They're good enough. And to listen to people about how good the Black Series helmets are that Disney, or Hasbro pumps out, um, it's like, guy, I had a flat piece of plastic and a plastic suit that had a picture of a stormtrooper on it, and that was my stormtrooper Halloween costume, and people loved it, you know. And then I got a Don Post, you know, vinyl helmet that was way too small, and the dimensions were off, but it was awesome. It was the best thing that any. And I wasn't a kid at the time. I was high school, probably college. Um, and then this Don Post stuff starts coming out, and I love them all just because I kind of see everything with rose-colored glasses, but I actually think they're all pretty good. Um, I don't really have any complaints, and I've got just about all of them except the repaints. But for merch and for making money, doing variations of a Stormtrooper helmet that you put some red stripes on or put a yellow, muzzle on, and sell it again and sell it again. And there's guys who have multiples of each one, and um, that's what they got to look for. Maybe if they can't make the money in the production, make it in high-end action figures. A lot of people, adults with adult money, are getting into that kind of stuff. So you can see from behind Brad. Um,
Yeah, like the Hot Toys and all
yeah,
that, those companies. Yeah, it's crazy. Like $300 figures.
or several $100 statues. Um, God, who's the big statue maker? Brian?
Bowen.
Who?
Bowen.
That might be one, but that wasn't the one I was thinking of. There's one that
Sideshow.
comes Sideshow. They come across my feed all the time, probably because I watch their videos. Um, but yeah, they do cool stuff. Um, other than that, yeah, so that kind of ties into with the streaming series what they've been trying to do. Even as much as I loved and love Obi-Wan, even that series was maybe 2 episodes too long, at
Yeah.
least an episode too long.
Mhm.
You know, But like I said, there's somebody crunching numbers and they're like, yeah, we got these people on set and we're making these costumes and blah, we need to crank out more than 4 episodes. So that's my take, Matt. I don't know if it made sense.
No, it's fine. It's great.
What I'd like to see, nothing specific. I don't have a
Mhm.
character that I want to see, just a way that I think it might work to see it.
Yeah, so just kind of one thing about the streaming, the number of episodes. Sometimes I wonder if that's how can I get this made in the pitch meeting, right? If I
Mm.
say if I say I want to make a 15 episode series, the people who control the money are going to be like, do we want to commit? But if I say I'm going to make an 8 episodes series, it's a little easier for the people writing the checks to go, well, eight's not that bad. We can, and to Aaron's point, like they're crunching the numbers. Okay, if we do this and, it'll cost this much. And so I wonder sometimes if that's part of it. Um, you
I
know,
think that's like the majority of it.
yeah, just what can I say to get this made? Because I
Again,
don't want
though,
to overcommit.
where's the revenue? Where did they make the money off of it? It's people holding on to subscriptions,
Right.
right? Like, I think we all know that everyone here in this group has Disney Plus, has no intention of canceling Disney Plus anytime soon,
Correct.
so that I can go rewatch anything I want to. But I think part of their business is they put out something cool and they get an influx of people paying for subscriptions.
Well, that's what I
And
was
so
going to
there's
say. We're not their target audience. We already
no,
No.
subscribe.
Right.
we're just enjoying. Yeah,
This is a forever growth society. They've always got to be getting new subscribers,
Yeah.
and
Well,
yeah,
and maybe part of that number of episodes is, if we have a 20 episode season, I'm not going to get the new person halfway through because they're going to go, oh, well, that's way too much to make up. But if it's
right.
only eight, oh, shoot, most people watch 8 episodes of streaming in an evening. This is the way some people do it.
And they coordinate. So while I've got 8 episodes and I've got them strung along for 2 or 3 months, because I'm never going to drop it on August 1st,
Right.
I'm going to put it in the middle of the month and get them for 3 months for these 8 episodes. There should be something following it up coming out after,
Right.
or at least a tease so you could go back and rewatch, and I'll keep you on for one extra month, and then I'm going to drop this other thing to keep you. So I think the math that they do probably has to do with trying to keep people enrolled.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. As far as the future, just my take on it, I kind of agree with Brad. I'd like to see a good movie. I've had no problems with any of the movies overall. Um, if you put all nine made main movies in front of me and made me pick, I'm probably not going to pick something out of the sequel trilogy every time, right? I'm probably going to pick something from the first six, but I watch them if they're on. Loved Rogue One. Solo was fine. It had some other issues that had nothing to do with Star Wars. Um, but yeah, I'd like to see a good movie. And I go back and forth on this because, we're talking about overdoing the streaming, and I agree with you, but there's a really greedy part of me that likes it. Just like give me more, give me more,
Yeah.
right? Like give me more Star Wars. Like how can it be bad? And then every once in a while you're like, oh, okay, it could be bad because you could get this really piece of crap thing that disappoints you. But there is a greedy part of me that wants them to keep pumping out stuff, but there's an adult part of me that says, okay, but let's make it good. Let's not rush it. Let's get good writing and have a solid story. And you know what? The easiest way to do that is go off the Skywalker saga, get away from that, and go do other stuff where you have the freedom to do whatever you want. I know we talked about this when we talked about TV with the Acolyte and stuff, but I know they tried with the Acolyte, but that had its own issues. That was a totally different thing. Like you have so much freedom it's literally a galaxy. Like go find something else to do a show about, and I bet you'd
Have
be
fun with it.
yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. But introduce some of these alien races or yeah, go to the outer rim and do some stuff or whatever. Anyway, so that's my kind of hope for the future is some decent movies and some TV shows that keep me interested um in the universe. So
Do
um
you guys think? I know we're trying to kind of wrapping up, but just
that's okay.
question: do you guys think Order 66 caused stormtroopers to have motor function issues, and that why they can't shoot anything anymore? Is that a possibility?
No, that's not.
Wow.
Okay, because
Well, I
That's the last
think
time they took a good shot,
so
I think.
most stormtroopers weren't clones anymore, right?
And didn't they say like they got can like to get too deep in the weeds, but like I've read stuff where they've retconned it where it's like, oh, the stormtroopers were watered down, and after this, like, then they would just take any old recruits and
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
it's like, oh, okay. They just didn't want to show people getting holes blasted through them in a PG movie. That's why.
Yeah.
And then there's always during the Skywalker saga, we're watching them be corralled, not be hunted.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Um, that's funny. So it, I think I know how most of us will answer, but is Star Wars going to be around in 50 years? I think this is a relevant question because with Disney taking over, there's this, and this is how I thought about the question. There's this possibility of just burning it out, right? Like you lit the fuse and you just blow up all your ammunition and you got nothing left, and so eventually it just starts declining because the five of us, we're not kids. We're gonna expire at some point, and will people still enjoy Star Wars 50 years from now, or is it gonna eventually die out like some things will, like just naturally? I just open it up to the
well, I don't see it ever happening, it dying out. Um, Back in the early 2000s, maybe still the 90s, when those Power of the Force action figures came out. Um, and I don't know when the re-releases of the movies, when the special editions were coming out, how that coincided. I think the figures started it. Because you'd see them at little trade shows and stuff first, and then you started seeing them at Target and Walmart and everything. And I'd go hunting in the morning after work or whatever, and I couldn't believe there was other people there looking for the same thing. So
Mhm.
it was like, oh, so there are other people like me, and I've lived, between school and here and a couple other places. It was different cities and it was different guys, but there was two or three at the Target when it opened because it was, Tuesday or Thursday or whatever when we knew the Hasbro shipment was coming. Um, and it felt super nerdy and super great. Um, but like, my kid that just walked by, he was not a kid, he's 23 now, but he has high-end lightsabers, and I don't think it's going anywhere. The kids in middle school, when I was teaching middle school, we're still talking about it. The kids in high school still, when I talk about it, there'll be two or three that seek me out
Mhm.
and they want to talk about Star Wars and, hear about the stuff that I have. So I don't think it's going anywhere anytime soon, you know, not in the next 30 years.
I don't think it's as prevalent with kids as it used to be, but it's still there. And I think they're starting to realize that and they're finding ways to bring them back in. Because us, as those of us who are parents, I've tried to introduce my kids to Star Wars to varying levels of success. It's just not their thing. It's my thing.
Mhm.
But I will say this, within the last year or two, Star Wars characters have been introduced into Fortnite. And now all of a sudden, my son, who just turned 12, he's asking me about Star Wars and like, hey, you gotta come check this out. This is like they put the there's a scout trooper in here, and like they've got this really little gun that you can use as an exclusive. I'm like, yeah, that's like in the movie. And then I turn TBS on and Return of the Jedi's on. I'm like, hey, Jack, come here. Like, look at the biker scout. See, he's got that little gun. He's like, oh yeah, that's like in Fortnite. So
Yeah,
like they're
that's
they're
cool.
figuring it out, and it's been around for God, so many properties come and go. Like, I don't think Avatar Land is going to be in Animal Kingdom and Disney in 30 years. I could be wrong, but I think there will be some version of Galaxy's Edge still,
Yeah.
you know?
And I guess I didn't quite, the point I was trying to make in the 90s or whatever, when late 90s, early 2000s, when those figures came out and there were, saw other people like it was because there was nothing for a long time,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
I thought it was that. I thought I was the only one, but it's like, you know, I was just trying to point out that it's there under the surface, and all you got to
Yep.
do is hook them again.
Yeah.
Yeah, those dark. That was kind of, in retrospect, that was kind of like a cool time. Like what, 1987 to 95 ish. There's like
Yeah.
no Star Wars. There's
Yeah.
nothing. And then the Heir of the Empire books came out, and like it's like, oh, like there's a little fire kindling again. And yeah, everybody jumped on board. You're totally right.
Tim, did you freeze?
I I was waiting to see if Brian was gonna go. I didn't.
Oh no,
Uh,
I don't.
I either thought you froze or you were going to
So did I.
sneeze.
Yeah,
okay,
something.
so do you think in 50 years religion will still be around? I mean, there's the reason that religion sticks around is because it's got good stories. Like there's good versus bad. You know, there's themes in Star Wars that people just enjoy. There's good versus evil. There's the light versus dark. And this genius of this idea of the Force that's something that we can't quite comprehend, but we love to imagine is really it resonates with you and it wakes up your imagination and it's like, wow, this is cool. And then another thing is I've got high school students in my classroom right now this week wearing Guns N' Roses t-shirts and Prince t-shirts.
Yeah.
Kids love retro shit. And so what I think will happen over 50 years is it will ebb and flow. There will be a time where people get kind of it's saturated and people are like, okay, you know what, I need to take a break. And then a not a younger generation, but some younger kids who aren't tired of it be like, wait, what is this thing? Let me take a look at it. Oh, this is really cool because the themes are universal. Good versus bad, um, rooting for the underdog. There's
Hero's
just
Journey.
tons, yeah, all of this stuff. Tons of really good themes in here brought together masterfully in 1970, whatever, that we've built off of and made a giant universe out of. But I think because the themes are so good, yes, I think it will be around because even if people start to forget it, somebody will hit play on a Saturday and go, dude, I never even heard about this. Like, what is this thing?
Yeah.
And then it'll bring it all back up again.
I think we got 1 or 2 more years and we're done. It's over.
Yeah,
No one's gonna give a shit anymore.
it's done. We're all done.
Yeah.
Well, the world will be over, right? So,
Yeah.
will the world end before Star Wars ends? That's the.
Take your lightsaber and shove it right. Okay.
I guess a good comparison would be, I'm a big Lord of the Rings fan, and that book was written in
60
1930 or
something.
something, or right? Wasn't it the 30s? Didn't
I
Yeah.
he
think
write?
Yep.
this was it 30s? I thought
Yeah, it was
60s.
It's pretty old. I'd have to double check,
Okay.
and
It's
I'm sure
after his
someone.
time in World War One, right?
Yeah, so I'm sure if anyone's listening, they're screaming at their device right now because I'm
it
wrong.
had a
But
huge resurgence in the 60s and
Oh,
70s. I
okay.
know
yeah,
that.
but I mean,
Yeah.
if you think about that, I mean, they're still making Lord of the Rings and Hobbit material, and it's 2025. So maybe that's a fair comparison. That's almost 100 years since he wrote the thing. So maybe that's a fair comparison, maybe not. But to Tim's point, you're right. It's themes that aren't specific to Star Wars. It's good,
Mhm.
evil, hero's journey, rooting for the rebels kind of stuff. So um, yeah, it's just when Disney took over, I think that's a fair question because that's a big money-making company, and are they gonna wear it out? Are they ever gonna wear out Star Wars to a point where, you know, nobody
I
cares
think we're in
anymore?
the oversaturation
Hmm.
time right now. I know
Yeah.
a lot of people I work with. I'm like, hey, did you check out Skeleton Crew? Oh yeah, I saw. There's another Star Wars show. Like, no, no, I'm kind of good.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, what about Andor? Oh, I never really watched the first one. I think a lot of people are just kind of like burned out right now, and I think Disney realizes that. Like what you guys were saying earlier is totally right. They're like, we got to have a constant streaming material to get people to renew or whatever. And a lot of people outside the hardcore fan base just sort of tuned out. But I think that's why they have pulled back and they were like, okay, let's let this cool for a minute. And there wasn't a ton of advertisement for Skeleton Crew even. They just
Yeah.
sort of let it go. But it's too big of an investment that they made to kill it.
Yeah.
It'll survive.
And is it enough to just every few years put a movie out or put a show out, or is that enough to keep it in the public eye and maybe at some point a few years down the road grab another generation, right? In 10 years if they put out a movie and this new generation sees it, is that enough to keep it going? I don't know. I'm not worried about it, and it's not. I have no control over that. It's just a thought, with
Hmm.
big money sometimes comes mistakes like that.
Well, it's not just about the storytelling, but it's about the business model too. Like Disney Plus was a huge thing when it came out. Like,
Hmm.
I can't believe, and they're going to put all the movies on this. Like, holy shit. But if it's saturated and they've overdone it, maybe there will be a point where before it gets too saturated, maybe they'll be like, you know what? Let's get out of this Disney Plus thing and rebrand somehow with some other idea
Right.
where people like us, as we're getting older, will be like, where are you taking my Disney Plus? This is
Yeah.
ridiculous. I
Right.
can't live like this. But if
And I get what
the
you're
business
saying
model is
though.
right,
And not to sound like an old fart, but the kids nowadays aren't out there playing ball in the summer. They're
Right.
just
yeah,
finding different things to do inside. So if
yeah,
you come out and you keep putting out decent shows on streaming, and there are enough kids with an imagination who are playing Fortnite and see a new skin on somebody who is a Star Wars skin, they're like, "Who's that?" Now I'm going to look them up on Disney Plus, and I'm going to watch,
yeah.
the Skeleton Crew because they put Jude Law's Jedi, in there. So it's just the it's easier and easier to stay inside and not do. And the more that they have the ability to direct them towards Star Wars or Disney with Marvel or whatever, then I don't see it going away. And yeah, scaling back a little bit, getting people want it. I mean, it's a drug. It's give a
Yeah.
taste, take it away. Give a taste, take it. So we got to get to the take it away part for Star Wars for a little bit to get people re-energized in it when something fantastic comes out.
Yeah.
Do they ever get desperate enough to go R-rated?
Ooh,
Will
Yeah.
there ever
We
be a R-rated Star Wars movie?
So I asked that question in the movie episode.
Oh,
Aaron, was that the one you missed?
it must have been.
No, no, I think no, but I think it's a great question. I think it's worth talking about again. Like, is that a what do they call it? Like a publicity thing? Like, oh, look, Star Wars went R-rated like Marvel did, right?
Right.
Hey,
I
look,
wasn't
we
a, I wasn't a part of that one, but there was the Star Wars Underworld show. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. They had George Lucas right before they sold to Disney. George Lucas had like I can't even tell you how much money he spent personally with there's like 40 or 50 scripts, and it was this like really it's supposed to be this really like dark, seedy take on Star Wars,
Hmm.
Underworld, just that. And like, murder for hire plots with bounty hunters and
Was it going
like
to be like
all
a weekly TV show
yeah,
kind of thing?
yeah,
Like
but
after
in the
8
but
o'clock or after 10
yeah,
o'clock?
and that's kind of what it was billed as. And he was like, we need to take like a gritty look at the Star Wars universe. Um, the budgets were like insane for what they were proposing. And then I guess he got into talks with Bob Iger and Disney about, selling, and then it was like, yeah, shelved. So they just released an interview recently with I forget the guy's name, but he was a big production guy in Lucasfilm. And he said, I can't say a whole lot about it and I can't share it, but he goes, I'll tell you, I have a bunch of scripts that I'm not supposed to have in my office at my home. He goes, and
Oh,
there was some pretty adventurous stuff that we were gonna do. He's like, I don't know if it would ever have been made, but the plan was to make it. We were trying to figure out how do we get this out there.
hmm.
Um, so yeah, I think they were ready to do it. Now that Disney owns it,
Yeah.
I don't know. I think they would definitely be
they own
hesitant.
Deadpool.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
what
Yeah,
that's what
maybe
I
they
was
make
gonna
a
say. Marvel.
subcategory of the business.
Well, and
yeah.
and even on Disney Plus, I know Disney Plus is with Hulu and
Well,
some other
that's
stuff,
what
but
Touchstone used to be for.
Yep.
but
Yeah.
even Disney Plus, you turn it on, it's not, it's because it's got Deadpool and it's got all these shows and stuff. It's not like it's just a Disney family friendly,
Yeah.
That's true.
view
And
anymore.
that's pretty
So
recent too, isn't it?
right, yeah. And I
Yeah.
think that, the buying of Marvel and Fox probably, contributed to that because they have to put that stuff out there to make money on it. So
Yeah,
yeah, just
if they did it, it probably wouldn't involve some of the core characters. You're not going to see
right.
No way.
Yoda like
No way.
skewering a prostitute or something.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say that there's a couple different reasons you can make a movie R-rated, right?
Yeah.
Sure,
Um,
sure.
there's a there's like a I don't know if we brought this up before,
It
but
would
in
definitely
Chicago,
be language and violence. It wouldn't be nudity.
that's what
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
this is what I'm saying. Like there's a cabaret style thing in Chicago right now called The Empire Strips Back.
Yeah.
And
It rolled through
how
Detroit last year.
how far do you push, the sultry nature of characters and still be okay being in the universe? I could see them pushing that. I have no problem with that. I would love to see some of this. Um, have a film noir feel if you have to have it, have some kind of artistry to it. But I would like to see a little darker version of this where people aren't pigeonholed into thinking I need my childhood back.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Because as Brian said earlier, like just let that go and just enjoy the entertainment in front of you.
Hmm.
And show a alien boob. I got no problem with this.
Or six.
Or yeah,
Or six.
Right. I was going
total
to say
recall.
3, Total Recall.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a precedent.
Well, I hope it's here in the future. I not to be morbid or anything, but I hope that, my son can at some point turn on the TV or his VR goggles or whatever they are at the time and go to his son, say, "Hey, this is Grandpa's favorite movie. It's Empire Strikes Back. Let's watch it," or whatever they're doing. Have it digitally injected into their brain or whatever they're doing at the time. But
Well, and he'll
But
lead a
So
virtual
when they
cast
play,
with strangers from around the country that are having their comments on how
yeah,
their
right.
grandparents used to enjoy Star Wars.
so when they play the Imperial March at your funeral, people aren't going, "What's this?"
Or is
The
it the
the
Imperial
heck?
March what plays when they fire up the hologram of Grandpa Smith and ask him questions about the before
Yeah,
times?
the AI Grandpa Smith. Yeah.
I
So
like all of this, guys.
million
Just
dollar
send
idea
this
right
pod
there.
straight to Disney. We'll get some shit
Yeah,
done.
Kathleen Kennedy or whoever replaced her.
you, you'd think we would until you started dropping F-bombs.
He's been pretty good today. Uh,
Only on my third beer.
there you go. All right. So I guess just to wrap up here, guys, I really appreciate you guys coming on and doing this. It was a lot of fun, kind of a guilty pleasure for me. I'm assuming for you guys as well. Just kind of get to talk about our nerdum and nerdery and stuff like that. So share our love of Star Wars with hopefully some people who enjoy it and whatnot. So I guess anything to wrap us up, anything you want to say to kind of close us out?
I just want to say it was a great idea. I've had a great time. Thanks for asking me to do it, Matt.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks for having me on as the outlier to talk a little Star Wars. It's always a fun subject for me, so I appreciate you having me on, guys.
For sure.
Yeah, it's fun talking nerd stuff and not feeling judged. I kind of enjoy it. Like we're all appreciative of our own nerdness about Star Wars and can't go wrong with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, excellent idea. Enjoyed it. And thank you for having me on.
Yeah. I appreciate all you guys. Like I said, if you're still listening out there, we appreciate you guys too for hanging on for 6 episodes here, and hopefully you got something fun out of it. So, closing out here one more time, we just a reminder we are part of the SPDM Crew Podcast Network. You can catch a bunch of good podcasts there. This is the 5 Star Wars nerds signing off for one last time. And remember, the Force will be with you always.